Yeah, yeah. I really want people to feel empowered to go after it. I really do. You'll probably get that vibe from my Instagram page. It's I'm very passionate about empowering people to just start. You know, Please just start. The biggest mistake people make is waiting and waiting, whatever that might be. If you've got a health goal, if you've got a fitness goal, if you've got a financial goal, a real estate goal, whatever that might be, just start, take action. We talk about those magic words all the time, but I really mean that. And I'm here to help you.
Nate, how you doing, brother?
Gary, amazing.
Good, man.
So much.
How was the drive into town, man?
Drive was good, not bad at all. Came from Oakville, so it wasn't too bad. It's just want to say though, to start, Gary, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Your show has inspired so many people. And I've told you before, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I hear from people all the time, man. Gary Hibbert, have you heard his show? Have you listened to him? You're offering more than just real estate investing. It's a unique show. You've got mindset, you've got health, nutrition. You kind of encompass the whole person. So kudos to you. Thanks for having me. It's a real honor to be here.
Oh, man, that means a lot. I really appreciate that. Thank you. But you know what? And I don't know how you came into it's Instagram, it's the social media stuff. Somehow you came into my feed and I'm like, who is this Nate guy? And I started following you and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's got some good shit going on, right? You got the physique, you're into the real estate investing, and it's been cool watching your journey. And your wife as well too. She's into the nutrition. You guys are into like weightlifting, and I like that stuff. And so I haven't done one on nutrition in a while. And so you're the first person that I kind of thought of. And I was also at the Corey McKinnon event, and he called on you, and you went up there, and listen, man, you're a great public speaker as well too. And I think it's a good fit for people to listen to your story and your journey, and that's why you're here. So why don't we kind of dive into it? Like, what got you into looking after your body and, paying attention to your nutrition and what you're putting in there?
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Appreciate that. Yeah, well said. You know what? It goes all the way back. We live a healthy lifestyle, holistic, healthy lifestyle. And how does that start? Well, that started off very young for me. I grew up, I was always in competitive athletics.
Yep.
Started off in my teens. I actually, my parents had me in sports growing up. So it was like, soccer, baseball, lacrosse, hockey, all these sorts of things. Finally landed on hockey, ended up playing at a relatively competitive high level. But as a supplement to that, working out was part of it. All of our trainers and everybody had us in different exercises and workouts back then. And I actually fell in love with actual weightlifting, to the extent where I remember I made my parents go out and buy a weight set. So back then, I don't know how old your listeners are, but we didn't have an internet back then. It was like there were garage sales and they were classifieds, right? So
okay, yeah.
I went out to garage sales with my parents, picked up a weight set. It was the old York barbell set. They were plastic with concrete inside, to the point where after a while the ends cracked and the concrete would seep out the ends. So started off in my parents' basement working out. I was like 13, 14 years old, lifting weight, buying every magazine I could, muscular development, flex, all these sorts of things, and fell in love with weightlifting. And that evolved over time. I ended up, I worked out all through kind of high school as a supplement to my hockey career.
Yeah.
And in university, in university, I ended up actually going and getting my Canadian fitness professional designation, so I could actually train people and learned a little more about physiology and nutrition, and helped all the varsity athletes in universities throughout Canada, and powerlifting, and learned all sorts of different modalities of training. So that's kind of where I started as a young man, and kind of ingrained in me the lifestyle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so what was your favorite sport growing up? Was it hockey?
Yeah, it was definitely hockey. I was a hockey guy. I loved all sports. I still do, though. I got to say, I am a huge sports guy, to the point where, it's funny. I was a young man. I watch anything, man. Bowling's on TV, cricket, you name it. I'm watching everything. Yeah. I'm a competitive guy. I love watching competition. Sports has always been my thing. But hockey, I played junior A level hockey. I played, athletic level hockey. So that was my real passion. And working out just was a perfect supplement to that, because the position I played was kind of a strong, aggressive position. So I needed to kind of lift and get a bit bigger. So I fell right into that.
All right. So then now what was kind of next? Because obviously where you are today, the physique that you have, you obviously then really dove into it deeper, right?
Yeah, definitely, okay. Gary. Good question. And this is what changed things for me.
Yeah.
Young man, worked out consistently for quite a while, and like anything, like compound interest, I had compound muscle. It took time, but like anything, over years and years and years, I developed muscle. And So not to be too cliche, but my now wife at the time, before we had met, I actually met her, not a big surprise, at a gym, of course. But so I see her, and like I say, not to be too cliche, but I fell in love with her the first time I saw her. And this woman was way out of my league, Gary,
Yeah.
like way out of my league. What I mean by that is this. I'll elaborate. At the time, she was Miss Fitness Canada. She was, 2 degrees, educated, the smartest, best looking girl in the gym, and she's quite a few years older than me actually.
Yeah.
And so I see her, and it didn't even dawn on me that this was even in the realm of possibility of me actually ever even dating this girl. But
Okay.
I see her, fall in love with her right away, and sure enough, though, over time, we eventually started to speak and chat a little bit, and we had a lot of synergies and connected. And again, I'll fast forward a little bit here, but my wife is a fitness competitor, as you know, and you mentioned. So
Right.
national level, world level, world champion, that kind of stuff. So when our relationship evolved, eventually, we dated, then we got married. But I was always around competitive fitness through
Okay.
her.
Yeah.
So I saw the guys. We went to the shows. She competed all over the world, different shows, and eventually, her coach's coach, gentleman, great guy, very well-known coach of bodybuilders in Canada. We got to know each other a little bit, and he's like, "Hey, man, like you should really compete." And at the time, and I'm like, "I don't think so. I've seen what you guys go through. I've seen the nutrition. I've seen this discipline. I've seen everything it takes to like wire it down from, a weekend warrior guy that looks good and jacked in a tank top to what it takes to be shredded on stage." And I was like, I don't know, that seems pretty intense. But the relationship evolved a little bit. And eventually I said, listen, man, here's the deal, JJ, okay?
Yeah.
If I compete, I'm going to win. Like,
Mhm.
this is it, man. Like, I'm a competitive guy, and I am not doing it just to say I did it. I'm
Right.
going to win. So if you want to do this and we're going to do this, we're going to win. So he's like, that's my guy. So sure enough, put a plan together. Here's the story of my first competition. We kind of reverse engineered it. So I'm a natural competitor, a lifetime natural. So there's no enhancements, there's no steroids, there's no help, there's none of that stuff. So it takes longer to prepare for these sorts of things. And I didn't know that at the time as much, just from watching my wife compete. But we took a step back and said, okay, here's some things you need to do. You need to gain a little bit of size in a few of these areas. He looked at me as a professional. So took 6-8 months, did a program where we kind of did an actual bit of a bulk. We gained some size, and then we prepared ourselves to come in for the show, which at the time was in Boston. And everything he gave me, I did double. He didn't know, I didn't tell him, but he's like, he gave me a program. He gave me, this much work to do this day. I did double.
Right.
When it came down to prepping and shredding down, he told me to take in these many calories. I cut it in half, so that by the time we got there, we went to Boston, and I ended up winning the show.
Okay.
So that was the story, man. Got my
Nice.
pro card, and my wife and I used competitive fitness to travel around North America, take our kids eventually, and kind of see a bunch of stuff. It was cool.
That's awesome. So let's dive into the nutrition and how do you know what to eat? How do you know what to put into your body? You see all these infomercials and YouTube videos and but how do you know? How do you know what's right? How do you know what's not right? Maybe even we'll jump into like fasting, the keto diet. Let's touch on all that. And do you even need to do all that stuff?
What a great question. These are some of the more common questions that I get. I get these questions all the time.
Yeah.
And we got to, again, like anything, okay, we got to take a step back when we're talking about nutrition and look at what are your goals for any individual. We need to do a nutrition audit and say, okay, what are this person's goals? Because people eat different foods for different reasons, right? So you've got somebody might want to have an aesthetic physique goal. Listen, man, I got like my 20-year reunions coming up. My boys are all going to be there. I haven't seen them in 10 years. I want to lose 20 pounds or whatever it is. Other people might eat for certain health reasons. So we take a step back and say, okay, first let's do an energy audit and understand nutritionally exactly what are your goals and where are you now?
And when you say energy audit, what do you mean by that? Are you
What
talking about like input, output?
Input, output. What are you doing right now? What is your lifestyle? And in terms of work, what's your job? What's your schedule like? What's conducive to your? We're going to make your nutrition fit your life. We don't need to make you step outside of your box to fit the nutrition. There's always a way to make it work.
Right.
That way, you're going to have long-term sustained success. So with nutrition, how you know what to eat? Good question in terms of all these diets, right? Like I'm going to correlate this to your audience with real estate investing, since that's who most the listeners are. Here's the reality of it. When you first got into real estate investing, okay, you had terms that were really daunting to you. ROI, BRRRR, fixed, variable. What is all this stuff? Flip. What are all these things? But what did you do? You did a little bit of research. You expanded your skill set, your knowledge. You found out what they all were. And then all of a sudden, man, this stuff is normal to me. This is regular.
Right.
The same thing goes with keto, paleo, vegan, intermittent fasting. What is all this stuff? Well, guess what? People are pretty lazy. They don't want to they want to have everything handed to them. And I always say to people that come to me, look, here's the deal, do a little bit of research, find out a little bit of information, understand some of these things. We'll work together and do some experimenting and find out what works best for you. We can talk about some of those diets and what they are, and I can give some strategies. But when it comes to nutrition, step one is always, let's look at your lifestyle, what you're eating now, do a little bit of a food audit. What are you consuming? The other thing is this, it's very important. People need to understand some very nutritional basics. So I always start off with people teaching them, what are macronutrients? You need to understand proteins, carbs, and fats, what they are, how many calories are in them, and then let's look at how many of those things you're consuming right now. Right. These sorts of things are very important from a starting point, building your knowledge base first, and then we can build out from there.
Right. And what were they again? Proteins, carbs, and fats.
Yeah, those are the macronutrients.
Okay. So let's touch on fasting first, because that was something that I tried. I actually liked it. Like, I didn't mind it. And I found, like, in the beginning was difficult because I'm like, oh my God, I'm missing breakfast. And so you have like this short window. I'm trying to remember now. I think I did like an 8-hour window of eating. Mm-hmm. Is it good to do that?
Yeah, 16/8 is very common. That's it. So the last part of your question was, is it good to do that? That's a great question, Gary. The science is proven. People intermittent fast for two different reasons, okay? For the most part, right? You've got the group of people who intermittent fast because it has a lot of cellular health benefits for people who have things like obesity, disease, cancer, recovery. There's a lot of great advantages to intermittent fasting for that kind of group of folks. Then there are people, the majority of people, and why it's become mainstream, that intermittent fast for the weight loss. Mm-hmm. That's the most common. And in reality, if I can break it down as simply as I can, the reason why it works for people to that extent is because it's another caloric deficiency. So what you're doing is you're either trying your best to reduce calories. A lot of people aimlessly, so they'll just say, okay, I'm gonna fast for 16 hours and then eat for 8. But it's very important when you intermittent fast that you do it properly. What I mean by that is the foods that you're consuming when you break the fast, right from the time you break the fast throughout your fast. It's important that you're consuming nutritionally dense foods that are not high in sugar, foods that don't spike your insulin right away as soon as you break the fast. Mm-hmm. People make that mistake. They also make the mistake of consuming the same amount of calories in the window that they were eating in the new window. It's very difficult on the digestive
And this is where
system.
you get back into that whole input-output, right? Yeah. So you're doing this fast and you're trying to lower your intake of calories. But now if you're dumping the same amount of calories in, right? Okay, I'm not a doctor, but
no, yeah, well, absolutely, it makes complete sense. And at the simplest level, when we're dealing with people on just weight loss, the simplest level is just calorie surplus, calorie deficit. I mean, if you're just dealing on somebody who's got a weight loss goal, they just want to lose a bit of weight. Yeah, you need to be in a calorie deficit, plain and simple. And if you're still consuming the same amount of calories in that window when you're fasting, it's actually it's more difficult on your digestive system. You have other cellular impacts of that are actually going to prevent you from losing weight.
Right, and it probably bogs you down as well too, because now you've got all this extra food sitting there in this one lump sum, like this short period of time.
Absolutely, it's very difficult. People find it very challenging to actually to follow that process. But here's the thing: intermittent fasting does have great advantages, and I do want to say that my wife and I have both practiced it. My wife practices it right now, daily right now for other health benefits. But from a weight loss standpoint, done properly, it can be very, very effective, and it can it increases your growth hormone factor. It increases your heart health, your blood flow. It's advantageous to the organs. There are so many advantages. It reduces insulin. It reduces inflammation. People that actually you're training, your strength can actually increase when done effectively. So there are a lot of advantages to intermittent fasting if done properly.
Right. Okay. And you also touched on something as well too, is that when you break your fast, right?
Yes.
And I think that's where breakfast comes from. is essentially you're breaking your fast, correct? Why is that so important?
So when I say break your fast, yeah, I mean the first thing that you eat out of the fast. So if we talk about a 16-hour fast and you've got an 8-hour window there, it's important that the foods and the calories that you're consuming when you come out of that fast, like I mentioned, are not high sugar foods, are not foods that are going to spike your insulin right away. So what insulin is um, it increases your blood sugar, right? So another reason why fasting is so effective is that you're not actually putting food in your body. Food is converted into blood sugar in your body. So what happens is your fat stores are being chewed away when you're fasting, when you're truly fasting and you're in that fasted state.
Right, because there's two things you can burn, right? It's sugar or fat. Is that correct?
Yeah,
those are your main two.
When you're eating things like carbohydrates and sugars, they're converted into glycogen. So yeah, exactly. So once those stores are depleted, typically your body goes to use fat.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So then when you're eating, if you got sugar, it'll take the sugar. Once your sugar is depleted, then it'll go to the fat. And that's how you start to lose that belly fat or that back fat or wherever that fat is on you, right?
That's good. I like that. You actually touched on a good point there. People think they can target their fat loss, but it's fat in general. Yeah, you're right. It's weight in general. And when you start to lose more weight, those problematic areas, funny enough, usually are the last ones to go, but eventually they go. That's right.
Yeah. And you know what I found as well too, is when I was doing fasting, I felt like I had more energy.
Yeah.
And is that when it starts to burn your fat? And is that where you maybe kind of start getting this like almost like Neanderthal type? Because now it's like, okay, hold on a second. I got to start hunting for food now because I'm burning my reserve. Is that a fair analysis?
Yeah. I mean, you touched on a good point there. And, we talk about going like the paleo diet, for example. You talk about Paleolithic era where we did evolve from humans who didn't know when our next meal was coming. So you definitely go back into that state. In terms of when you're in that fast and you're breaking that fast, I think that it's important to recognize that your body's going through a lot of cellular revelations as you go through that step. So it takes a while to get from this time that you start fasting through to that point where you feel more energetic. People usually they drop out from intermittent fasting before they get to that point where they're actually getting the benefits of it. But if you can stick to it and you can ride the wave through long enough, you will definitely get to a point where you feel more energy. You feel like brain fog is clear. You get to that point where you're actually more energized. You will get there. Another thing people need to recognize is that what can you actually consume while fasting? People have the misconception that they can drink coffee, which is fine. Black coffee is fine. Herbal teas and water. It's pretty well it, by the way. Water, tea, and coffee black. People are putting sweeteners in their coffee, not realizing that's not actually fasting. Even things like the coating on Advil, if you take Advil while you're fasting, some toothpastes that have different products in them are high in sugar. So when people are actually ingesting these things while they're fasting, they're not actually in a fasted state. So they're not going to actually reap the benefits of that.
I never even thought about sugar and toothpaste because the damn thing is sweet.
Isn't that amazing, right? Yeah, the smallest little things. It's we learn all these things over the years when we're prepping, things like gum and all these little things that you don't think of. That's like, man, that's true. There's more calories and more sugar in that than I thought.
Yeah. I never thought about that. So do you use toothpaste? Well, you obviously use toothpaste, but I mean, is there one that you prefer to use that doesn't have sugar in it?
Yeah, there are plenty of them. And nowadays, the great thing of how health has evolved is that you can go into your Shoppers Drug Mart, here if you're kind of in Ontario, and you can pick up, there's a whole section of natural products. And under those natural products, there are brands called Tom's, and there's a few different brands where they've got you read the labels, they've got nothing in them. There's no junk in them. There aren't all these chemicals and sugars and things like that. So you can find that. Yeah.
So it's important to pay attention to what's actually on the back and reading what you're putting into your body.
Yeah. At a high level too. We don't want to overwhelm everybody at the beginning too. Yeah. But if you're gonna, for example, if you're gonna fast and you truly want the benefits of fasting, then there's a lot of great information on the internet. You look it up. This stuff is actually very basic. Once you go to one page on intermittent fasting on a health website, and they'll tell you these things. And in a one pager, it's not overwhelming. It might sound like, oh man, that's like so much work. It's actually not that much work if you actually want to dive into it.
Right. Yeah. What about diets? Do diets work?
Oh, another great question. And man, I got to tell you, Gary, I hate the word diet. And the reason why is this, we come from, in our generation, we come from a generation where the word diet, that's what it was. It was just diet. You're either dieting or you're not. But the thing is this, the best diet is the diet that you can stick to. Okay. That's the best diet. So
Right.
people always ask me, hey man, like, should I do keto? Should I do like reduced calories? Should I do, if it fits in my macros? These are all different diets. If we use the term diet, the reality is this, if I sit down with somebody who wants to kind of get serious about getting in shape, I say, listen, man, we're going to find the diet that you can stick to. Okay. That's the most important diet, the one that you don't fall off the wagon on. And then from there, some people love keto. Some people love what we call if it fits in your macros. That's basically essentially a general overall healthy, nutritionally dense way of eating. Like my wife and I, for example, we're in shape year round. We stay in good condition, and I follow, for the most part, I mean, depending on where my goals are throughout the year, but for the most part, kind of like an 80-20 rule, where I'm eating healthy, nutritionally dense food 80% of the time, and 20% of the time, we're going out for pizza, taking the kids
Right.
out, having ice cream, but it's compound interest. If you're doing anything in your life 80-20,
Yeah.
you're going to win in the long term. That consistency over time, the 80% is going to win.
It's crazy how that 80-20 rule, you can apply that to almost everything.
It's so true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true.
So which one do you, so 80-20, and then is there one that you follow, like the keto diet, fasting, or like what do you do?
Yeah, again, good question. I'll tell you what, over the years, I have done all of them. I've experimented with all of them, both to see how it affects my body and so that I can help others and help to explain, how it worked for me and how I feel about it. So I don't follow any of those diets at this point in the stage of my life. I do fast 12 hours a day. That's more for the health benefits than has nothing to do with physique benefits. But I do eat a nutritionally dense whole food diet 80% of the time. We can get into talking about some different strategies and things that people can implement for their own nutrition that I use. But 80% of the time. And then, which for the most part, it kind of works out to be like during the week, I'm working, I'm busy. It's kind of easy to stay on track. I don't have time to, be horsing around usually during the week. I'm busy, right? I got kids, I'm doing events, we got scheduling, got businesses. So, in the weekends, we're out with friends, we're going to go out for dinner, we're going to grab a pizza and wine. Like that's kind of the 80-20. So right now, that's what I've been doing now since I did my last show for the last couple of years. That's how I've been kind of living.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, where was I going with this here now? So in regards to the keto diet, in regards to the fasting, I think really what it comes down to is just doing something that is good for you, essentially. And here's where I was going with this too. In regards to the health benefits, you said you don't eat for 12 hours. Is it because it is now helping your body regenerate, fix the cells? Is that essentially what it's doing?
It's a great question. Yeah. And I've learned this from my wife. She's fasting now for much longer durations of time for other health benefits. And yes, it clears out dead cells. I don't want to mash this word, but it's called autophagy. And autophagy is a process whereby when you're fasted, your dead cells, your dead DNA is cleared out of your system. Okay. So at a high scientific level, which I can't get into because I don't know how deep it goes scientifically. I'm not going to claim to know, but I do know that autophagy clears out dead DNA. I personally do find over the year, when I was a young man and I was kind of heavier into gaining size, I always thought that eating and more protein and eating was always very important. As I get older, I understand and recognize that giving my digestive system a break is very important. You don't actually need to consume as much protein I thought I did. Most people in society don't eat enough protein. I was eating way too much for years, and that's heavy on the kidneys and it's heavy on different parts of the body. But in reality, if you're doing a fast like the reason I am is, yes, indeed it does. It clears out dead cells. It prevents brain fog. And I find that it sets me up for the day. I actually wake up early in the morning. I work out every day for the most part. I get up early, fasted, and I train fasted every day.
Oh, so you work out before you eat?
Completely fasted. Yep.
Okay, good. So I'm doing it right. Because when I go to yoga, like I don't eat anything. I just go right to yoga and I feel good. Like I don't feel like, oh my God, I'm tired or anything.
You said something very important there. At the very end, you said, and I feel good. See, this is a problem that we have. A lot of times we do what we see. We see it on Instagram, or a friend told us, or a trainer told us, so you got to eat in the morning, you have to have breakfast. What did we grow up? We were told breakfast is the most important meal. That's what we were told. Mm-hmm. Well, now we're learning that might not necessarily be true. I am a big fan of getting your caloric engine running. We can talk about that after as well. But yes, to answer your question, Gary, you're doing the right thing. So if you feel good, your body feels good, you perform well, you don't want to feel lethargic. You don't want to put a bowl of oatmeal in your body in the morning, or you don't want to eat a bunch of, or some toast and then feel lethargy when you're going to do yoga. For me, I found that carbohydrates, I always consumed them earlier in my career because I thought that was what I needed to do to keep my calories up and to prepare for my training. We always learned about like pasta before you go play hockey and all these sorts of things. Well, the reality is that your body's working so hard digesting those calories. It's fighting. Your energy systems are fighting. And on top of it all, it just made me feel lethargic in general.
Right. Yeah. So let's get into the training aspect of it and working out. And I think that's difficult for a lot of people because they feel like they don't have enough time.
Oh,
how do you make the time to work out? How do you kind of schedule that all in? Like what do you do, and what are your thoughts on that?
I love that you said that. That's probably the number one excuse for anything. I don't have the time. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing, okay? And I know that you've heard me talk about this before, but the reality is this: we're dedicating so much time in this society right now to building wealth. Okay, we are joining groups. We're in real estate investment communities. We're doing all these sort of educating ourselves. We're watching podcasts. We're doing all these sorts of things. We're listening to podcasts. We're watching YouTube videos on how to build wealth. And I think that's great. I love wealth. I think wealth is phenomenal. But in this pursuit of generational wealth, time freedom, geographical freedom, all these catchphrases, what we've done is we've taken our health and we've put it on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, all right, okay, health, this is real cool. I'm going to come back to you when I got the rest of this stuff figured out.
Right.
All right, let me just get my money in order. Let me get myself in order here. I don't have time right now to think about you. I know you're there. I'm going to come back to you, but I got to get this part straight first. And the problem with that is that the funny thing about life is that it strikes you when you least expect it. So when you neglect the most important thing, which is your health, either you're going to run into a disease, you're going to get to a point later in life where the doctor's going to tell you you're pre-diabetic, or you have you're not going to be able to play soccer with your grandkids. The reality is that you cannot put your health on the shelf. Okay, so I'm very passionate about the fact that I really firmly believe that it's our obligation to build as much wealth as we can for our family as well. But I think it's our obligation to build what I've called generational health. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think we need to learn everything we can about health and wellness. We need to pass that on to our kids. We need to pass that on to those around us. Because without health, there is no wealth.
I agree with that 100%. And listen, that's one of the reasons why I named this podcast what it is, right? Wealth, health, and everything in between. Because, what's the point of having wealth if you don't have your health? You can have 99 problems. And as soon as you have a health problem, those other problems, they're gone. Because then all you can think about is just getting back into a healthy state. And that's important. Like, listen, man, you got one body. Like, treat it like a temple, not a woodshed.
Well, you asked a question at the beginning. It was people, how do they find the time? And you know what? Here's the thing. You make it. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me you don't have time. Don't tell me you don't have time for yourself. There are 24 hours in the day. Okay. Unless you're a welder on an oil rig working 18 hours a day. All right. You got to pass for that shift. I got that. But the majority of us who are saying that we don't have time, we have time. And I'm not here to say to people, to bad talk people by saying that you haven't made the time. No, that's real cool. We're going to teach you how you can fit it in. We're going to talk about ways that you can have the time. I want to empower you to feel like, you know what? Nate's right. I do have the time, man. I can figure that out. So we talked about strategies on making time for people. I mean, some of them include small things like, don't set your sights so high that you're going to fail. So some people have never worked out before or haven't done, we can talk about finding the exercise that's for you, that's fine. But, some people jog, some people do CrossFit, some people go to the gym, whatever it is that you're going to do that's going to involve movement, I call it. Don't set your initial goal so high that you're going to fail. Like, some people say, hey, listen, man, it's like a New Year's resolution. I'm going to start Monday. I'm going to run 10K a day.
Yeah.
All right. No. You're not going to run 10K. Okay. Well, you and I both know it's not going to happen. Okay. So let's do this. Let's set a realistic goal to start. A realistic goal is going to be for somebody who hasn't done anything for a long time. Maybe it's going to be, I'm going to walk 15 minutes twice a day this week.
Mm-hmm.
Or for some people who say, I want to start getting up at 5 a.m. I see these guys do it and I'm going to work out every day. Okay. Hold on now. You're getting up at 8 right now. Getting up at 8, you're having a coffee, you're kind of messing around for an hour and a half. Let's not say you're going to get up at 5. Let's do this instead. Let's say for the first week, you're going to wake up 20, 30 minutes earlier each day. That's all. Mm-hmm. We're going to start off with micro goals that I call guaranteed success goals. We're going to set a goal that you're guaranteed to succeed in so that you start to feel confident. You start to build that confidence like, man, I can do it. This is real cool. So that's one strategy for people. Like
I like that. What was it? Micro goals?
Yeah.
And that reminds me, I remember I was listening to somebody talking about that. I've said this before too. He called them micro workouts. And he's like, just get down and do like 2 push-ups. Now you're down there. You're like, well, Jesus, I can do more than 2 push-ups. Because you're down there anyway, so you might as well just do 10 or 20 or whatever it is that you got to do, right? But it's just starting small, just getting that into your head. When do you find is the optimal time to work out? Mornings, afternoons, evenings? Does it matter?
Great question. Again, here we go. I'm going to take it right back to this. It depends on the person. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, when I was a young man, I loved evening workouts. Yeah. Loved it. I was young. My oldest son, he works out that night. He can't work out in the morning. It's not his thing. For me at this stage of my life, it makes the most sense for me to get it done as early as possible in the morning.
What time is that?
That's, I'll get up at around 5:30. Some days there's a 4 on the clock. Some days there's a 5 or 6 on the clock, but as early as I can.
And you're going to the gym or you got a gym in the basement?
I do have both. But I prefer to go to the gym. These days I'm going to the gym. Yeah. I'll get up, I'll go to the gym. On a couple of days a week, I run. We can get into that in a moment, but I get up as early as I can and I get that workout in first thing. And this is the reason why for me. But I'll answer that question. I'll finish that off by saying this though. Get it in when you can, okay? And that also includes if you planned to work out in the morning and for some reason it didn't happen, it's okay to still do it in the afternoon. Don't write that day off because you didn't get it in when you wanted to. For me, the reason why the morning is important is this. I start my day with something very hard every day. And I'll give you an example. Okay, let's look at it like this. I'm not a big runner, but I do run for sure once a week, sometimes twice, depending on what my goals are at that time. And here's 3 things that I definitely don't want to do. It's January. It's a Tuesday. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to go outside in the cold. I don't want to run. Those are 3 things I don't like. I don't like getting out of bed. I don't like going in the cold, and I don't like running. I don't like either of those things. So what do I do on Tuesday in January? I get my ass out of bed. I go out in the cold and I run. And I do 3 things I don't want to do. And I start my day with something I do not want to do. And it's not easy. It's hard. Okay. So you get outside, you're there, you're moving, your knees hurt, your hips hurt, everything sucks. You're that voice in your head that's telling you, it's cool. You're already in shape. You don't need to do this, or it's okay. We'll do it later. We worked out yesterday. You silence that voice and you get running. A funny thing happens, after 10 minutes, you start to actually enjoy the run. And then when you're done the run and you're sitting there and you're stretching or you're changing and you're getting ready for your day, there's a sense of pride that you silenced that voice and you did something difficult to start your day. Now, all of a sudden, you move on with your day. And you might have had that meeting you weren't looking forward to. You're like, this is going to be a crappy meeting. Or you have to make that call you didn't want to make, or you had to go and you had to do that job on that project that you didn't want to do. All of a sudden, those things aren't so hard anymore.
Yeah.
Because you started your day off with something really hard and you conquered it. And now you're confident.
It's so true. I think, sometimes I say, yeah, but you like working out, you like going to yoga. No, I don't. No, I don't.
Yes.
I don't. Like, I get up, I'm like, get up, bitch. Let's go. Let's go. Like, I gotta talk myself into it many times. Then when I get there, and then when it's close to the end, where she's like, okay, now lay down in your mat. And then, like, I'm sweating, I'm done, I'm almost dead. And I'm like, now I feel good. Now I feel good, right? And I think that's what people need to try to understand is that, yes, we all go through that. It's difficult getting up, doing it, but it's that consistency and it's how you feel afterwards. Because now I feel like I'm like, okay, now I can take on the world. Like I just went through that. Like my yoga instructor, she beats my ass up, and every time, so I register, like, I go 3 days a week. And she's like, you're always the last one to do it, like really late at night, Gary. And it's like, I know, because I'm prepping, I'm talking to myself, like, no, I'm coming up with all these excuses in my head. And then I'm like, just do it.
Yeah, you know what? You touched on a good point there. I mean, people see, sometimes they see how far I've come and, it's years and years and years. They see the physique and they think, oh, this guy loves it. Listen, every single day, just like everybody else, I don't want to get out of bed. Like, the thing is that over the years, it becomes easier, of course.
Yes.
It becomes easier. But, and there is motivation in progress. But you touched on such a good point there, man. None of us want to get up and do it either. We're all the same. Mm-hmm. I'm putting together a little guidebook actually to help out with helping men achieve their potential. And I'll give you a little tidbit here into it. The first step is this, and this is the most difficult thing. The first step is accept that it's going to be hard. This goes for anything in life that you're about to do, anything you're going to pursue. There's secrets to success. We'll talk about some of those, but accept that it's going to be hard. I always tell people, this is what we're going to do to start off. You need to first recognize that this is going to be difficult, because if you just jump into it, you don't recognize that you're going to go through some challenging days that you don't want to go through, you're going to drop out. So I always say to people, okay, this is what we're going to do. Sit down, close your eyes, take 20 seconds. Picture yourself doing something that you fear, that is going to be very difficult. Whether for some people, it's just stepping into the gym, in that atmosphere. For some people, it's doing a CrossFit class and box jumping. For some people, it's going for a run or whatever that might be. Picture yourself showing up, and then picture yourself what it feels like inside to do it. And then you've accomplished it. You can feel yourself now accomplishing that feat. You've done it. The class is done, whatever it is. How does it feel? And then now you have what we talk about. You've mentioned the word vision before. You need that vision. You got to picture yourself succeeding and where you want to go, what that body's going to look like, what you're going to feel like at the other side. Because without accepting it's going to be hard, but recognizing what it will feel like on those days that are tough in between, you have to have something that pushes you through. You have to. There's going to be those days where, look, you're going to start a new workout program. You're going to tell your buddies, you'll tell your friends, your family. At the first couple of days, you're motivated because it's new. But then all of a sudden, after a few days, those people, they've moved on out of their own life. They're gone. And, you're a little bit sore and it's been a few days into it. But now you're just in your own head.
Yeah. Now, after you've worked out, what should you do when you're done? Is there anything that you should specifically put into your body? Is there anything that you should do with your body, like when you're done? Right? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do. I do follow the practice that I think that when you're finished exercising, depending on what you've done, it's important for you to fuel your body with nutrients. Okay. A lot of people, depending on what it is that you're doing. So depending on if somebody's done a run, if they've done yoga, or if they've lifted weight, we do like to consume, protein relatively soon after you've worked out, depending on what you've done and where you are in your nutrition plan. Consuming protein and some carbohydrates in a certain form.
And what do they do? The protein is helping to rebuild your muscles?
Yeah.
Because essentially you're ripping your muscles. Is that what a workout is?
Yeah.
Essentially?
Essentially, that's what it is. Essentially, you are tearing muscle fibers. Blood is flowing into your muscle fibers. They're being torn and then they're being repaired afterwards. So that's the importance of sleep, the importance of nutrition, the importance of different, rest on certain days, things like that. But yeah, to fuel your body, and again, depending on whether you fasted or not, that might look a little bit different, but you want to fuel your body for the most part post-workout, definitely with some protein. We always aim for whole foods, but in reality, the world that we're in, liquid protein's fine as well. People take a protein shake after they're done working out. And this is definitely to replace some of the stores that you've depleted while you've been working out.
Got it. What about detoxing? Is there a certain amount of times in a year that you should detox your body? And how long should that be?
Yeah, great question. Detoxing, similar to intermittent fasting, has great health benefits. I would definitely recommend people, if you're going to detox, here's the thing as well. The best thing to do for both detoxing and intermittent fasting is to connect with a naturopath, a licensed naturopath. So you can go to a naturopathic clinic, you can go to a naturopathic health store where there's an ND on staff. Your gym probably has one if you're part of a gym. And you sit down with a naturopath and you put together the best detox for you, because there are several different detoxes that are for different, that can have different benefits. So you want to sit down, understand what your goals are going to be, and then put together a detox plan with that naturopath. And yeah, once a year is definitely, kind of average and optimal.
So once a year for how long typically? Like what do you normally do?
Again, it depends on the type of detox that you're doing.
Okay.
A lot of the detoxes are going to range from anywhere from kind of like, 4 or 5 days to just over a week. Some of them are a couple weeks long, but depending on what you're taking, some are pretty aggressive.
I've seen some aggressive ones. Like I think there's one where it's like 30 days of only water.
Yeah, there are some aggressive.
I don't know how good that is for your body. Anyway.
Yeah, and again, you got to ask, like Gary, like anything in life, we always ask why, what's the reason, what are the goals, where are you? I mean, for some people that could be very detrimental to their health, right? So you have to do it under the guidance of a professional. There are great health advantages for people. But you want to make sure that it's guided, again, always ask, whether it's your investing journey or your fitness journey, what are my goals? Why? Like if someone comes in here and says to you, Gary, I want to, I want to buy property and I want to build wealth. And you say, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about your scenario. And you realize that this guy, just got a divorce. He needs cash flow right away. Well, his purchase is going to look a lot different for a cash flow priority as someone else who comes in here who makes $500,000 a year and just wants to build wealth on the back end. So the same thing goes for nutrition. You want to dive deep and understand, where are you now? What are your goals? And you get some professional assistance to help you, and you'll be on your way.
Yeah, and that's an important thing, right? Like it's, if you get into real estate investing, you're going to get a coach. If you get into like working out, you want to get a coach. Like you should have coaches in each of these aspects of your life, as opposed to trying to figure it out and tackle. Like, yeah, maybe you can do it on your own, but it's so much better and easier if you have somebody to guide you along the way, right?
Yeah, especially in health and fitness. There's so much noise right now around us. There's so much information, misinformation, and everyone's brother knows something and their cousin knows something. The reality is that you are a unique specimen. Your body's unique, your lifestyle is unique, your schedule is unique, your stress level, your sleep, everything's unique to you. So you need to make sure that you seek, help for your exact goals on where you want to go. If my goal is to lose 20 pounds and his goal is to gain 20 pounds because he wants to put muscle on, oh man, those strategies, of course, are going to be very, very different. So it's important to seek professional help. Very well said.
Now, what about, as I always wanted to know is like the day before you're now going to, well, not the day, but like the weeks leading up to you being on stage. How do you get shredded? How do you get ripped like that? Like, what's the process? There's a process, obviously.
Yeah,
like
there sure is.
It's an intake of water and like walk me through that real quick.
Sure, real cool. I'll walk you through real quick. So here's the thing, right? It starts off way out, right? It starts out like 12 or even 16 or sometimes even longer weeks out. Like my wife has done like 24-week cuts. We call it a cut. So in simple science, basically what you're doing is you're reducing your caloric intake very slowly. Caloric, yeah, your calorie intake. You're reducing your caloric intake very slowly. Predominantly, when I say that, predominantly carbs are being reduced slowly as you lead into your show date. And the reason why we do it slowly is because if you do it too quickly, too aggressively, what happens is you start to lose muscle. So there's a balancing act there between maintaining as much muscle density as you can and reducing fat and depleting water. So you'll start, for example, I might do a 12-week cut where, in synergy with my coach, as we talked about, with help, we look at exactly how we're going to strategize this as we come right into the show day. So slowly tapering down those macronutrients, you're bringing down carbs. Quite typically what we're doing is we're actually bringing up protein as we bring down carbohydrates, because we don't necessarily want to reduce all of our calories at once. We want to reduce certain types of calories. So we're bringing carbs down as we get closer and closer to the show. The fun part, as you mentioned, is when you're about 2 weeks out. It starts to get very aggressive. So I'll give you an example. So I may have started off at a place where I'm getting ready for a show. I've been putting on a little bit of size and gaining some size, and I'm consuming maybe 400 carbs, 500 carbs a day at some point. I may get all the way down to zero. Okay, so you can see how on a chart it's going to slowly come down and be decreased down to the point where we're about 2 weeks out from the show. And what also comes into play here are these things that people call refeeds or carb ups. People use these terms not understanding what they're actually for. What a refeed is this. People are always like, oh yeah, there was my refeed day. And I laugh because it's John at the gym who's been eating junk all week. A refeed is this. When you reduce your carbohydrates to a point where they're very, very low, you're depleting the glycogen in your body, your glycogen stores. You want to deplete your glycogen so low that when you get to a point where we do what's called a carb up, is when you replenish all your glycogen. So you feel like crap. Your glycogen is depleted. You have no pump in your muscles. You're exercising and working out at the gym, and you get really, really, really low with your glycogen, and then you do a carb up, and that fills up your muscles.
What's
with glycogen?
What is that?
It's carbohydrate converts into glycogen in your muscles. Okay, so it fills your muscles.
Is it a fuel?
Carbohydrates convert to glycogen. Yeah, exactly. It's exactly what it is. Okay. That's why you're lethargic. You don't have any energy. And then what happens when you fill up your body with carbohydrates again, you do a carb up, is that you're reinfusing your body with glycogen. So as we get closer to the show, right toward the end, we're very, very low. We're like 30 carbs a day, 40. And pretty well, these carbs are just from vegetable carbs. Okay. There's no complex carbs at this point at all, pretty well. And then just before the show, you talked a moment ago about what's involved there. So to really get that grainy muscular look, like that real shred, we deplete water from our cells. So again, there are certain type of workouts that we do that are depleting workouts. And then we actually stop drinking water for the most part. And our carbs are really low. So the water and the glycogen is depleted from all
Now, when you
say
you stop drinking water, are you drinking a lot of water?
Yeah,
along
good
the
question.
way?
There is not along the way. There's about four gallons a day kind of thing, or I'm sorry, 4 liters a day, right up until the Canadian on. So you got about 4 liters a day, right up until your the last kind of week. And then what happens is you do what we call a water load, where you consume 2 or 3 times as much water a couple days out from your show. And what you do after that is your carbs are down to the ground. You're zero. There's like no carbohydrates in your body at this point. Just before your show is when we do the carb up. So you fill back up by consuming lots of carbohydrates, and it fills your muscles back up. And then just before the show, I mean literally just before the show, you see old videos of Arnold and the guys are doing a pump up in the back. They got bands and they're pumping up. And what happens is you've got no water in your cells pretty well at that point, right? Like it's just skin on muscle. So you just see all of the striations and all the shreds and everything that's there. And then when you fill your body up with carbohydrates, it fills the muscles back up. The muscle cells fill back up. And you got that kind of look on stage, and it doesn't last that long. Usually what happens after the show is people go out and they have a bunch of food, and they actually look better 2 days later because they're filled back up entirely.
So is this what the UFC fighters do as well too? Is it similar?
No. This is strictly for aesthetics.
This is for aesthetics.
Yes, so this is to kind of get the muscles to really pop.
Right.
What you see performance athletes doing, they're dropping weight to meet a weight class. So yeah, they do some aggressive dropping. The principle's the same in terms of they don't want to lose their performance, they don't want to lose their energy, they don't want to lose kind of the edge and the advantage that they have. But if they're dropping weight, you see guys wearing garbage bags, covering their body with different creams, and riding a bike or running on a treadmill beforehand to lose weight, to drop weight. There's other things that they take, or that they kind of ingest to flush their system out to get rid of all of the body weight. But yeah, that's a bit different.
All right, cool. So now let's kind of just switch up gears here. So now you've also gotten to real estate investing, and you've also gotten yourself a coach as well too to help you along the way. Now, did you get into it prior to finding a coach?
Yes.
Walk us through that journey.
Yeah, great question. Yeah. So my story real quick in that regard is I've been in my professional life is been, my father actually owns a property management company and he has for over 40 years. So growing up, I was always around property and real estate and all that sort of stuff. I was delivering notices as a young boy and all these sorts of things. And I went to university, came back, graduated, and went and worked for my family business. My brother and my father, who still operated to this day, were there and running the company. And I worked there for the property management company for over 10 years.
Yep.
Didn't love it. Learned a ton, but it wasn't really my thing. My passion is, building sciences. So left, started a company, that I saw a need in the multifamily field for aluminum windows and doors. So I started a company with a partner at the time where we supply windows and doors for large REITs, like Cap REIT, like large companies, right? Condominium management companies, some of the bigger ones in the country. And so I've always been around it. Like a lot of people I knew, we did work on real estate investors' houses, on their properties. We did, we replaced their windows. I got into, we do flat roofing and all this kind of stuff. And I saw guys kind of, talking about being investors in their properties and building wealth and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, man, like this is something I got to get into. Like anybody though, I didn't take enough action right away. I just kind of, dabbled around with information. And then I picked up that book you got over there, Don Campbell's book.
Great book.
Great book.
Yeah.
Pick that book up and read that book and was like, wow, my eyes opened up. And between that and Rich Dad Poor Dad, it infused me into action. So early on in my life, I had bought condos. I knew everything about condominiums because of being in property management. I knew everything about reserve fund studies and backends and developers. So my start was condos, like a lot of people. And then, eventually decided that I need to step my game up. And like I said earlier about competing, I'm an all-in kind of guy. Like if you're going to play in the sandbox with Nate, we're going to win. Like we're winning, man. Like whatever we do together, boy, we're winning. Right. So I was like, we're going to go after it. People are kind of buying single family homes and duplexes. And I said, no, we're going to go in. So we bought a 4-unit property, first property, pretty aggressive, full reno. Needed everything done on it, but with my background in contracting and property management, that's the areas I'm super comfortable in. So that was it, man. Jumped in, bought that property and completely renovated it.
What year was that?
That was about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And so
now, did you do that on your own or
completely on our own?
Okay.
My Tania and I, yeah, completely on our own. When I say on my own, I should take a step back. I'm sorry about that. On my own in terms of no partners, but my team at the time is so essential. So when I say that, I mean, I got great realtors, great mortgage brokers, great lawyers. Like I'm regretful for saying on my own because that's actually the power team. The power team is everything. Right. So I first took the step of, after reading those books, understanding how important the team is. So I went out and I met the people I needed to meet. And a few people who remain my mentors today out in the Hamilton region helped me a lot along the way. And so that was it. That was the starting point. Jumped in and then I joined a mentorship program. Learned a lot about the ins and outs of how far you can really take it. How you can get involved with joint venturing and large scale investment properties, all the different strategies. And it's been a lot of fun. Right. Yeah.
So then what was that second property like? And did you get into joint ventures?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, right away, pretty well. So, it's funny. I've heard people talk about this on your show too, but once you start to kind of get involved with real estate investing, people come out of the woodwork in your community of friends and family that you realize have always wanted to do the same thing as you. And once they see you start to do it, yep. Oh man, like I've always wanted to do that, bro. Like, let's talk about that. How did you do that? Hey, and then you kind of evolve the discussion and tell them a little bit about it. And I'm an open book. Everything about me and my life and what I do is for everybody to know. I'm cool with it. And so you learn from people quite quickly that they want to invest. They may not want to dedicate the time that I've had to put into doing it. So they might be a perfect person to passively invest with you. So, and that's been the case sometimes.
Right. What were some of the mistakes that you made along the way investing in real estate, or finding like a partner that you can share to kind of help people navigate through that and not make the same mistakes that Nate made?
Yeah, and I want to be clear. There are a lot of mistakes I've made along the road. This path is very bumpy. Very bumpy.
I'm still making mistakes.
Yeah, me too.
Making mistakes.
Me too, brother. And you know what, too? Honestly, I really firmly believe that those are the lessons. That's actually the gift. If you can make them, learn from them, move on, that's how we grow. So lots of mistakes along the way. I think that one big one is when you're a new real estate investor, that you've done it and now you're looking to expand a little bit, but whether you've run out of your own borrowing capacity or whether you think that you're prepared to maybe take on some partners, your business partners are a marriage. And I think that people make the mistake of taking on any money they can find. You know, it's like, hey, listen, you want a partner? Done. Let's do it. Let's go. It's a marriage, and you have to align in every way, in my opinion, with your business partners. So I think that taking on a partner that doesn't align with you in your morals, your character, your work ethic, of course, your strategy and where you want to take this business can be a big mistake, and a mistake that I think a lot of us have made early on, because we want to take on that partner, and we want to just get your first joint venture or whatever the case may be. But I'm very, very happy and proud to say that we have phenomenal partners now. After learning those lessons, I align with people who are just as anal, driven, aggressive, hungry, and astute as I am. And thank goodness they are, because I can be a pain in the ass. Just ask Tania. But I got the best partners in the world, and it's through mistakes. It's because I made the mistakes.
And you know what? That's a good point, right? It is a marriage, and I think people don't realize that in the beginning. And so it's not just only about partnering with somebody because they have the money. You also have to make sure that you complement each other. And if you complement each other, it's such a great marriage when it comes to real estate investment. So it's a really good point that you bring that up. What do you think is one of the most difficult things that you've gone through in your life? And how did you get through it?
It's a great question. It's like I said, I've gone through a lot of difficult things, but most definitely the most challenging has been something that my wife and I just went through in the last 2 years. And it's, we talk about health. Mm-hmm. And one reason why I'm so passionate right now at this stage of my life and giving back and educating everybody on the importance of health is because it does creep up when you least expect it. So back in 2018, the end of the year, my wife and I we finished competing and doing a few shows, and life is good, right? You take for granted your health, and you take for granted exactly how things are going. It's just kind of starting of the pandemic, and we had some family members who have gone through some health battles. You never think it's going to strike your house. You just don't think it. No one thinks it. Mm-hmm. Fast forward. And we kind of sped through the pandemic and learned a lot about ourselves as a society and things that we want differently, and things we want to prioritize. And my wife and I are blessed. We have a great marriage, phenomenal kids. We put the work in and we reap the benefits. But a year ago, this past February, Valentine's Day, just leading up to that, my wife had finished a show. She checks her blood quite often. Because of what she does in competing and being a woman that is, had kids and things like that. There's hormonal levels that you got to keep on check when you're competing. So every 3 months, my wife gets her blood tested. She had been feeling a little bit off leading up to that point. And so her endocrinologist, which is her hormone doctor, did some blood runs for her and noticed a few things that were a little bit off. And being such an astute doctor, which is a blessing, she said, Tania, let's try modifying a few things here with your supplements and whatnot, and see, because I don't really like the way these look. It could just be because you just finished a show, you're depleted, your hormones are all out of whack, you're kind of premenopausal, all these sorts of things. So they ran another blood run 3 months later, and the indicators had gotten worse. And so she offloaded Tania to our GP, our regular doctor, who was very astute as well and kind of put Tania through all kinds of blood tests. And we got a call on Valentine's Day last year from the doctor. And he said that these protein spikes in your blood are very indicative of a form of cancer called multiple myeloma. It's a bone marrow cancer that stems from the bone marrow. And so here we are, probably my wife, the healthiest human being on earth that I've ever known, by far. And your world stops in its tracks. Nothing matters at that point. And let me tell you something. You never, ever expect to get that call, ever. You always think it's going to be somebody else. Mm-hmm. You know, you think it's going to hit someone else's home. It's going to be like, it can be very close. It can be your brother. It can be your sister. It can be whoever, but you never think it's going to come in your house. That C word, you never think it. And it carries such a stigma. And you immediately think the worst. Immediately, you know, we're so conditioned to, as soon as you hear that word, you think the worst. And that was the worst week of my life. From that call leading up to 1 week later, she had an appointment with the oncology ward to get a bone marrow biopsy. And for Tania and I, you know, like the world stopped. And so fast forward a little bit, had a bone marrow biopsy. It was confirmed. My wife had what's called multiple myeloma. And we had to go through last year from February. That following week, they wanted to start her immediately on treatment. So we went through a year of treatment, went from February up through to August into September, where she finished with a stem cell transplant. And that is by far the most difficult challenge that we've had to go through in our lives together. And it's, you know, fortunately she's in a good place right now, where she's so advanced with her skill set and her knowledge that she went out and resourced and got so much information and continues to. But to answer your question, Gary, that is the greatest adversity that we've had to face.
Yeah, listen, thanks for sharing that personal story. You must have like an out of body experience at times, and especially probably that first week where you're just like, this can't be happening to us in our home. Like
that's exactly what happens. And you know, to this day, a lot of things, I go a lot of emotions every day. You know, it's still you know, my wife still goes through the, like, I can't believe, like, it's me, right? But I'll be driving, Gary, twice a week, sometimes more, and I'll just start crying. You know, like you're driving in your car and it's like, you may not even be thinking anything. You know, I'll be at the gym and, you know, I'll just start crying, or you know, a song will come on and it'll spark different emotions. But that's it. You know, you don't think it's going to hit your family. And I want to be clear, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, health and the importance of health. And because my wife, fortunately, has lived such a healthy lifestyle, she was able to get through some treatments that other people don't even get through. But actually get through to a point where, you know, all of the doctors that are on her team and around her are like, we've never seen anybody get through anything like this before. Wow. You know, to the other side, to the point where, you know, she's doing so exceptionally well, and she breathes through it so well. And that's because of her health, and because she was able to, you know, live such a healthy lifestyle and learn so much about her body up to that point that, you know, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to whose home it strikes, but you know, I would recommend that, you know, everybody put themselves in a position that you can either prevent it or be ready for it by being as healthy as you can.
Yeah, and you know, it really shines through on your posts and on your social media. Like, you have this new lens and new perspective on life. I can see that and I can sense that. You know, and you put a good messaging out there, the messaging of building wealth, but also family. Mm-hmm. You know, I see that, and I like that, and I think that's a great story that you share, and it shines through. Yeah. So you know, it's amazing that you share that with your followers. So that's why you're here. Because I wanted to learn more about that. So thank you for sharing that.
No, thank you for that. And I do, listen, man, I got to be honest with you. I love life. I always have. I love waking up. I love every day. Life is a blessing. It really is. And, you know, when something like that strikes your home, it's easy to feel like a victim. It's easy to get taken down. But you know what? We talk about all these little strategies for you and building your confidence and building and winning each day. Those tiny little micro steps and micro goals and achievements help you to face adversity when it truly strikes, because we think we go through adversity every day. And, you know, we do in our world. Absolutely. I don't want to downplay that. But when you're hit with something that significant, I want to make sure that you have the tools in your tool belt to handle it. Right. And right now, you mentioned a moment ago about my social media and conveying it. And I'm trying to be as real as possible and give people strategies to succeed as best I can. And I'm very passionate about this one thing right now in life. And that's this. Time we talk about. Time truly is the world's most valuable resource, because you can't buy any of it back. You know, you can't. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's the one thing, no matter how much wealth you have, who you are, you can't buy it back. But what you can do, and I'm trying to teach people this, is you can buy time back on the other end with health. You know, you can live the healthiest lifestyle possible. You can, like, I want to provide people with the gift of time. You know, I'll share something intimate with you here. My wife, she wrote me a card, and it was for my birthday this year. And it said, it was the gift that she gave me in her fight was time. Time with her. So that was her reason to fight. And for me, I want everyone to understand the importance of time, and that you need to prioritize your health to be able to give your family, your kids, your parents, your spouse, your loved ones time.
Yeah. Well said. Really well said. Wow. I don't even know what to say after that, brother. You know, it really does change your perspective on life. It really does. What would you say that you've implemented differently now since this has happened? What is kind of like your focus and your wife's focus and the kids, you know, what is it?
Yeah. You know, like I say, it does change. I mean, we've always lived consciously, and I think with purpose, definitely. But you know, it's shifted now. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things for my wife now that a lot of the things that were sucking her energy before, she's eliminated. You know, most of the things have come through the process of elimination. Mm-hmm. You know, we spend so much of our time trying to please others or do too many things, and it takes away from who we are and from us being the best form of ourselves that we can be. You know, the best gift that you can give to the world and everybody around you is being the best form of you that you can be. And we've really learned that through the process of elimination now, that, you know, cut out all the BS and really kind of focus in on what's important. And, you know, we've also made an effort and made sure that we keep our vision, both, you know, personal visions, health visions, philanthropic visions, things that we are doing to give back and to help others and to help to achieve our goals. Keep that really, really close and review that regularly.
Right. So you're a lot clearer now on your vision and what you want, as opposed to getting pulled in all these different directions. And I think that's what ends up happening is when you're not clear, and I see this all the time, that when something new comes in, like, oh, I should do this, or oh, I should do that, or oh, I should do this. And so it sounds like you've now narrowed down and you're now more laser focused, which allows you to say no to all these other things, because there's a lot of time wasters out there. And there's also people out there, and I don't mean this in a bad way, that will waste your time. I'm not saying that that's what they want to do, but they can do that because it can take you away from what's important with your goals and in your life.
Yeah, you're bang on there, Gary, for sure. There's two things that prevent us from making progress. Really, two main things. One is comparison, when we compare ourselves to others. The other is lack of clarity, right? So like you said, looking at too many things, being attracted by the shiny object, and that lack of clarity prevents us from being able to hone in on a clear vision, which we can, it's like a roadmap. You're going to go somewhere. I came out here to see you today. I had my map on. I know where I'm going. Without a map, you end up lost.
Yeah, for sure. Nate, any last piece of advice that you could share? Something that you haven't shared yet? Man, you shared a lot today.
Yeah.
We touched on everything.
Yeah. I really want people to feel empowered to go after it. I really do. You'll probably get that vibe from my Instagram page. It's I'm very passionate about empowering people to just start. Please just start. The biggest mistake people make is waiting and waiting, whatever that might be. If you've got a health goal, if you've got a fitness goal, if you've got a financial goal, a real estate goal, whatever that might be, just start, take action. We talk about those magic words all the time, but I really mean that. And I'm here to help you, any way that I can, to empower you to take action, but it's definitely just start.
Yeah. Great words of advice. You know what? Listen, man, I just started my YouTube channel for Real Talk with Gary with the cameras now. And I looked at it and I'm like, oh my God, I only got 1 subscriber. but that's it. You just gotta start. Yeah. People will be like, what do you mean Gary only got 1? That's all I got right now. Because I've always done it more on iTunes and Spotify. But that is a great message. Just start. Doesn't matter if it's something that you want to do, just start. And you'll be on your path to being great.
Listen, man, I want to hold myself accountable here. Let's do this in public.
Yeah.
Just starting. I have been looking to start a podcast as well. One that's going to be an all-around podcast that can help people with everything in their lives, And so I'm going to announce now that that's my goal, to start that. So you got to hold me accountable. I got to do it. That you're going to be one of my guests.
Awesome.
I have to live by example, and I have to just start as well.
All right. Awesome. You heard it here first, man. Nate's starting a podcast, right? So if people want to learn more about you, how can they get in contact with you and reach you?
Thanks, Gary. Yeah, Nate.Atkin is the Instagram account. Hummingbird Capital Properties is our real estate division. We got a website, Instagram, all that kind of fun stuff. So check us out. Reach out anytime. More than happy to help people out and connect. And it truly is a pleasure giving back, Gary. I love it, and I thank you for the platform. Everything that you do, man, you give a great message every time to your folks and help people out in every aspect of their life. So thanks so much for bringing me in.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming in, and I enjoyed it. I think people will enjoy this as well too. So, Nate,
me too. Take care, brother.
Great doing this, man.
Awesome. Great. Right. Thanks so much.
All right, man. We'll talk. All right, everybody. Talk to you guys next week. Take care.